Hey, what's up, guys? It's Luke or Amenity, and welcome to the video. I get a lot of requests on stream and YouTube comments about PKing tips and tricks or like a guide type video, but I'm not really good at guides or anything like that, so I figured I would just make this video and see if you guys like it or not. And basically what this video is going to be, it's going to be me commentating over clips and then explaining what I was thinking at the time of the fight. Now keep in mind, this isn't me saying that this is the way to do the best in the game, or I'm not saying I'm even good. I'm literally just going to explain what I was thinking at the time of the fights. That's all there is to it. So I'm going to be using a lot of LMS footage in this video. I guess the video will probably only be LMS footage, just because I have a lot of it and it's easy to explain things. Now, you notice at the beginning of the fights, pretty much every single fight, I use my specs pretty early, and I feel like that's a mistake that a lot of people on LMS make, is that they don't use their specs like at all, even though they should be specking every single time they're unfrozen, especially with the DDS at the beginning of the fights. You have four specs with that thing. If you use one right away, you'll probably get a fifth at the end of the fight. So there's a lot of people in LMS that are just learning to Brid, and that is completely okay. Obviously, we want more people who are learning to Brid. As you get better and better, though, you want to be able to identify things like playstyle and other things that will basically give you an edge over the opponents that you fight in LMS. Now, I'm playing this clip again because there's actually a prey switch in here that's pretty calculated, and I'll explain why. So I'm basically trying to see if this guy is a good player or not a good player, just based on a few, first attacks in the fight. So he mages me there, and I mage him back. I don't see any change in his gear. But what I do is I don't prey switch right away with my mage. I actually delay my own protection prayer by a tick, because what that does is it basically protects me from both the possibility of a mage and a range attack. Because if he were to one tick that range into me, it would have been on the same tick of my range prayer. And because I didn't see any change in prayer at first, he would have to do it at the exact tick to catch me off prayer. Another tip I can give you guys is use previous prey switches in fights as indicators of how they will prey switch later on in fights, if that makes sense. So here in this clip, right when I get unfrozen, I'm gonna DDS this guy, or DDS spec him, and he camps melee prey. A lot of people in LMS do this, even though they're not thinking of the next attack. So I got a free range hit there on his robes off prayer, and you'll see this happen again in this fight when I get him next to me. So I DDS right then, and melee prey, free range hit. Now, later on in this fight, you'll realize that it was actually a bad play by me, because I shouldn't have DDS right here. I should have bolted that guy. I should have used his previous prey switches to tell me that he wasn't going to range prey that. Now, other people are different. If they do have a little bit quicker prayer changes, they will change that prayer. Notice that guy flicks melee prayer right back to range, and I just keep one ticking DDSs into him, because I know he's gonna. I even throw a whip hit in there because I know he's gonna change his prayer. And then at the end after 3 hits, he catches on, and I throw a mage into him. So here's something that I see a lot of players where they make a mistake at, and they get too obsessed with freezing their opponent. So notice how I splashed not once but twice there on my opponent. So when I splash this freeze coming up here, and my opponent catches the freeze on me, that means that he is in a huge power position. I'm frozen, he isn't. I splashed, you know what I mean? He got some damage on me through prayer there. So he's in a power position, and I splash. But the one thing that he doesn't do is use that power position like to really gain an advantage. He just takes a step back. So he's actually more vulnerable than I am in this situation. So in this guy's mind, this guy is thinking, "Oh, this guy's trying to freeze me," because a lot of people, especially in LMS, they get super super super, I don't know if like scared is the right word. Like they get super obsessed with freezing people all the time, and it's not that big of a deal, guys. Like seriously, off prayer hits are a way bigger deal than any freeze would ever be. You also have to recognize your advantages based on your gear. So obviously I have a VLS. Every time I'm unfrozen, I'm gonna make sure I'm smacking that dude with that VLS, because that's gonna be hella damage. And then after two times, the guy understands what I'm doing. And when he understands that I'm kind of camping VLS, I correctly guess, like usually on the third hit, people understand what you're doing, if that makes sense. So like if you're gonna camp a VLS and you go back to back VLS hits, they're thinking, oh, this guy's gonna do it again. So usually if you can get away with two off prayer hits and but the third one, you gotta change it up a bit. You gotta throw in that curveball. Another thing that throws a lot of people off is a bunch of movement. So when I get this guy frozen, I believe right there is the refreeze, and I start moving around like a freaking crazy man, they really don't know what to do. So you see me step under him a bunch, and that's basically just to get him to melee prayer because everyone, I guess, just freaks the fuck out whenever someone goes underneath him and something, and they just camp that melee prayer. So you'll see me actually just go underneath him for a tick or two. I think I do it twice in this clip, and I just use that to get a free bolt or a free hit off prayer. One of the biggest tips I can give you guys is you have to delay your mage attacks, especially. It doesn't really matter if you one ticket or two ticket, it doesn't matter. Honestly, both of them will catch people off prayer, but you have to delay your mage, guys. So in this clip, you can see those first ones were pretty quick one ticks, but here after I splash this freeze, I think I melee him and then I range him. But then watch these next freezes, guys, right here. So right here, I delayed that one. I hit him off prayer. So again, I delayed it again. I got him off prayer again. I'm gonna delay it again. I got him off prayer again, three times in a row, and he get me off prayer there because he did good there, and then I'm able to barrage him. But all of those were delays. What I mean by delays is I'm equipping my gear either on the tick or one tick before I actually cast the barrage into the player. And what this does is, in order for them to hit the prayer right, they're either going to have to completely guess when the mage attack is coming, which can be very dangerous, especially if they have a good ranged weapon because they can just bolt you, off prayer. Or, they have to literally change their prayer the same tick that you put on your gear. But because like human reaction time is only so fast, people can't react to that gear switch in time to change their prayer and then have the game catch up and change it for them. So here, after I cast a barrage, tick 1, I put on the tank gear. Tick 2, I equipped the crossbow to fake him out. Tick 3, I equipped back on my mage gear, and the last tick is the barrage again. And he's always going to be one tick late on that, unless he guesses when I'm going to barrage. Now, notice my own overhead prey switch in this clip. I actually flick on mage prey for a tick, and I do that because if this guy were to actually one tick a mage into me, I would have gotten that prayer on for the mage tick. But it actually worked against me because he wasn't quick enough to do that and actually was a tick late. So he actually barraged me off prayer. I should have actually known better in that clip to make that prayer change. So this last clip, I'm just gonna play slow-mo the entire way and kind of explain what I was thinking. So I know right here I'm gonna DDS this guy. So whenever you DDS, always fake into something first. You'll catch him off prayer. I mean, that guy didn't even pray switch anything, but you will catch him off prayer. So this guy, okay, so he mages me here, right? So in my head, I'm thinking, okay, he just maged me and we are one step, which I call like when you're right next to somebody. So we're one step and he just maged me. So the next attack he's probably going to do is either obviously going to be a range or a melee. And I see him do a pot trick there. I didn't know it was a range pot and he actually ranged me, but I was able to get him off prayer there with that DDS because I faked it into range first. After a DDS, after I hit a big DDS, I like to mage a lot because either one of two things are gonna happen. Either they're gonna melee prayer and I'm gonna bolt them on their tank, right? Which is not really a good idea because they're probably gonna eat a combo food this early in the fight, and that's not really a good idea. So either they're gonna melee pray or they're gonna range pray and flick my bolt. And what I like to do, especially when I have a Kodai in this setup, is I like to just mage them because it's basically 100% of an off prayer hit, and there's a decent chance it's gonna hit because they're gonna be either brewed down, they're gonna have their tank gear on. It's just a really good play, and it's like I said, it's a legit 100% off prayer hit. And you saw me there, actually, after that big barrage, I actually put on Piety because I was thinking in my head, I'm like, okay, I could potentially DDS this guy, he's low HP, but then I decided against it because I figured he'd be able to either, Karambwan out of it, or he'd be able to eat out of it in some way, and I just figured it wasn't the right play, so I just maged him again, and it was a big XP drop, so I think it was the right play. And you see, after every time I mage, the first thing I do, I don't, after I mage every single time, the first thing I do is put on tank gear. Tank gear on mains is your defense. You have to put on your tank gear. That should be the first tick. You shouldn't be prey switching. You shouldn't be eating unless you're like super low HP and you really need to eat. Your first ticks after a barrage should always be your tank gear in every single scenario. So this is a bit later in the fight. I went underneath this guy to get a free range bolt, and you'll notice as I bolt him, I actually click south for the animation stall, so my character would kind of like slingshot south. And basically, this is for my own protection because when I'm putting on mage gear, and I know this guy has like 2 or 3 specs left, I just kind of want to make sure that he doesn't get a DDS spec on my robes, like a free DDS. Then I believe after I DDS this guy, he's low HP. I have a lot of options, right? I can either bolt his tank, or I guess I didn't know he was gonna put on that robe gear. I have a lot of options. I decided to whip him because I was out of spec. I figured that he would know that I specced him 4 times in the fight, and he would actually change his prayer. Maybe I was just kind of guessing that he was like a really good player or not. But yeah, I think I chose wrong on that attack. But then of course, I went for the mage after that anyway, because that's like 100% free hit. They're never gonna pray mage when they're on low HP like that. It's just not something people do.